Did I get the introduction right, Zen?
Yeah,
Almost?
most of what I do.
Okay. So what we're going to do over here is get a little bit of the theory out of the way and then head to that table. But before we head to that lovely coffee table, in all of that introduction, Zen, one thing I missed out was that you and I are both tech geeks,
Sure.
creative individuals. Where does politics come in? Is it because we're all building up to an election year? Because we're all listening here at the India Today group.
Uh, I, I'm a storyteller fundamentally. I try to tell stories that I think are relevant, stories that I feel aren't being spoken about with the same seriousness as I would like them to be spoken about. Um, in my short career, I have had the privilege of working on films like Ship of Theseus, Tumbad, An Insignificant Man, which are all relevant in their own way. Uh, but I constantly feel that the media at large has been conflating two fundamental pillars, politics and policy. When we talk about politics, we keep talking about politicians and who said what and who did what. The most important conversation of today is the conversation of the rules we agree to live by, the consensus that we draw, the policies that we form. And that conversation has, in the last decade and a half, taken the back seat.
It's taken the back seat, and it's also because of us millennials and Gen Z really not being as engaged in that process. Things are a Google search away or maybe generative AI doing it.
Sure.
But that's where Shasan, this hot-selling board game, co-founded and created by the gentleman sitting beside me, really comes in. Now, very quickly, before you explain the game to me and to our audience, why Shasan and why now?
Uh, exactly what I was saying earlier. I want young people to talk about policy in a very engaged, informed, and exciting way. If I ask them to watch a 2-hour lecture on the policies of the nation and what happened in the last parliamentary session, no one's going to do it. None of my friends will do it. None of the people who are younger than me are going to do it. Very few, perhaps 0.1%. What if I made it fun? What if I made it exciting? What if I made them want to come back to a table to discuss policy on a daily basis? And that's what Shasan does. We have sold tens of thousands of copies all over the world, and every weekend, 20-year-olds sit around role-playing politicians, winning elections, fighting with each other, and understanding how democracy works while having fun.
How many of you guys are ready in the audience to get a nice little test ride of Shasan? Can a show of hands, please? All right, we need a lot more coffee, or maybe this demo is going to do it. Come on, let's go and have a look at what this game's all about.
Unless you've been living in a cave for the last decade, you know we are living in very, very polarized times. No matter where you look or who you talk to, your friends, news, social media, everyone is telling us that we are divided politically. What got us here? It's easy to think that our politicians don't know what they're doing, but is it really that simple? That's why we built Shasan, the game everyone's talking about all over the world. Your friends are playing it, politicians, comedians, entrepreneurs, everyone's playing Shasan, the political strategy board game where you are a politician in the middle of a heated election. Each turn, you take a stand on a policy in a bid to win the national election. Do you need to know politics or follow politics to play the game? Not at all. But you need to scheme, deceive, and do whatever it takes to win the elections. Over the past 2 years, Shasan has received universal critical acclaim. It has won several prestigious awards. People have called it the biggest board game out of India ever. Today, tens of thousands of players all over the world play Shasan every week and love it. The games are full of laughter, anger, despair, and of course, healthy political discourse. We made a political thriller inside a box. Welcome to Shasan. What will you stand for?
All right. So here we are, and if we met for coffee this evening,
Sure.
tell me, Zen, how do you play this game? Is this the monopoly for policy making?
It's much more than Monopoly. It's much more cutthroat. It's much more aggressive. It's much smarter. So, like you saw, there are 13 campaigns in Shasan that you can play with. Everything from American politics to fictional politics that we will encounter on Mars 30 years from now.
Maybe sooner if Elon Musk has his way.
What we have here today is the India policy deck. This is
Right.
the election of 2019-2020. We have a new campaign coming out every year.
So I can keep updating.
Exactly.
So it's a game that's really continuous. It's a living game.
It's a game as a SaaS model.
Interesting.
Awesome. So now, as you see the board over here, you have 9 states where you are going to fight elections in. Whoever captures the most number of states wins the game. How do you capture states? You capture states by influencing voters, and voters want to know what your policy is.
Right.
So question could be something like, oh, this is a nice one for
That's
today.
first card.
First card, yeah.
Okay.
should Pakistani cricketers be allowed to play in India?
All right, that's
that-
very timely. Is that card that's been there much before this week? Because this week's
Yes.
going to be tumultuous in that sense.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
and there are two answers on this. Yes, everyone profits when we play for peace. Or no, it takes one ball to play cricket, two to go to war. Now the conversation's topics tend to be a little hot button, little tongue in cheek to make it fun. But what it does is invites you to a conversation. Now you have to answer this question, and depending on how you answer it, your political personality will evolve. And there are four ideologues that you can become in the game. There's the capitalist, the supremo, the showstopper, and the idealist. One of these answers will be one of these, and the other one will be some other one. So what would you stand for?
I think, look, if we're talking about this particular one, I'm not going to answer that because that's a trick question. It's right at the India Today Conclave, the biggest stage. But let's just pick one, right?
Sure.
Pick number one.
So let's say you say when everyone pays for peace, it's profitable for all of us. You are fundamentally the capitalist, and you're building a pro-industry platform. Now, as you build pro-industry platforms, voters who are more amiable
Right.
to great economic growth
Yeah.
will start falling in your wake, and perhaps away from your opponents, and that's how you win voters.
You know, guys, we've not been able to show you on this particular screen what we're seeing over here,
Sure.
but I urge you to go check it out. It's available, by the way. This game's
Yes.
available on all the portals. What, 3,500 rupees is
Right
what
now,
it's
yes.
retailing
Yes.
at. But the one with all the bells and whistles, the limited edition which the whole world has, how much is
12K.
that? 12K for a board game. It sounds very interesting. What I'm going to do is, as a keepsake, I'm keeping this, and we'll get back to our conversation over there. But Zen, what's interesting is, in a time when you raised this money, and nearly $500,000, after one of the world's biggest board games had raised a third of that amount, here comes this Indian creator, designer, who raises 3 times that amount in a crowdfunding campaign. And then, it's 2019, the game launches in the midst of the pandemic. You still wanted to go with a board game
Sure. Yeah.
and not with a virtual game.
I wanted all of us to talk about policy across each other. So talking about policy on Twitter solved, or X as it's now called, solved the world's problems. The world's problems have been solved 10 years ago. The problem is we cannot talk to our families, our friends about what we believe in. And that's what we are out to change. Here I have documented 20-year-olds arguing with each other on caste reservations in a college. Something they wouldn't have done. Now, I also believe in doing good, but I also believe in doing well while I'm doing good. So we made this game. We made a physical game where you could sit and talk about policy, and we said, you know what? Everyone's second guessing the audience. Our audience is smarter than we give them credit for, because no one wanted to create smart content for young Indians. I believed otherwise. We created a game. We created one copy of the game. We put it on Kickstarter, and we had India's biggest crowdfunding campaign till date. Because people were ready for it. The audience was literally asking. There was a huge void that was created, and we went and captured the void. And that is perhaps a bumper sticker for my entire career, where me and my friends identify voids in the market, and then we go and turn those voids into gold mines. We did that with Ship of Theseus. No one wanted to make intelligent cinema. We did that with Tumbar. No one wanted to create really high quality genre cinema. With An Insignificant Man, the political documentary, with Shasan, and with a bunch of other things that we have done.
Okay, awesome. So Shasan is the part one, but this is another universe altogether of board games, because you're telling me there's now a sequel to this.
Yes.
You know, really coming in hot on the success of this game, and
Yeah.
it's called Azadi.
Yes.
What is the difference in Azadi and Shasan?
Uh,
As an end user.
Shasan is simplistic in a certain way that we're all politicians fighting each other. But that's not how modern politics or politics of the past has worked. Mr. Thackeray was here earlier talking about the alliance, and Rahul was asking him about how an alliance like that could be unstable. Unstable alliances are the history of the world. Shasan Azadi is a semi-cooperative game, which means and it's set in freedom struggles across history. You have the American Revolution, you have the Indian freedom struggle, you have the Tahrir Square revolution of 2011, where everyone is working together to fight off the imperials or the colonizers, very well knowing that once they do leave, only one of us becomes the leader. Now, if you know that, what does your coalition look like? What does your collaboration look like?
Sure.
And that is the fundamental question and the emotional ask of Shasan Azadi. When you know only one of you will win, will you still collaborate to make the world a better place?
You know, a lot of people raise their hands in terms of your Kickstarter crowdfunding abilities. A lot of people are willing to empty their pockets for your next project. But I'll tell you something. Did you learn a lot of this from your creative inclination? Perhaps Ship of Theseus was one of the best crowdfunded projects that I've ever heard of. All of us creatively were contributing to the output.
Yeah.
Were a lot of these learnings from your filmmaking days into what you're doing now with games?
I think it's the ethos of the entire studio, the ethos of all what we do together. We believe that the audience is much smarter than big conglomerates allow them to think, and we respect their intelligence, and we go out there and we create work that we really think that they want. And over the last decade, we have been proven right every time. There's a huge market that India has untapped, which is exporting content to the world at large. 80% of Shasan's players don't come from India. They are non-diaspora North Americans.
All right.
Why is that happening? Why is it that we are not exporting more content? Why do we only export technology backend out of India? Why don't we export culture? That is what we are trying to do.
You know, what's interesting is in an age of bots and paid marketing and even social media companies now asking you to pay to really get any services whatsoever. We don't know what the future of all of this is going to be like in terms of content. But with what you've done over the years with film, cinema, and now obviously in the gaming space, is organic marketing.
Yeah.
Very rarely have we got an anecdote from this place which has worked really well. What's the secret sauce then?
Like Reddy said, push marketing as it's called, where you pay ads to get eyeballs, will never work. You have to create a hunger. You have to make your product so cool, so exciting that everyone wants to come for it. I was talking to Kalipuri earlier, and she was like, Shasan not available. That was part of the marketing campaign of Shasan, where the game was hard to get. We starved the market for a bit. We created a great buzz talking about how cool the game is and reviewers around the world loving the game, and then we didn't ship it. For 6 months, we didn't ship the game. Suddenly, everyone wanted it. And then we flooded the market.
You know what we will do is, before we wrap up this session,
Sure.
and you empty everyone's pockets, let's have one more look at the game. I just want
Sure.
to have a very quick look, very quickly move over there,
Sure.
and perhaps tilt it up. I know it's not the ideal view.
Yes.
The box looks really cool. We do a lot of unboxings here, but
Nice.
you've already done
Yeah,
that
I've seen
for
yours.
us, right? If you look at this, guys, this is what we were trying to show you earlier. This is a made-in-India game,
Yes.
retailing at 3,500 rupees. What are the sales like? You're saying 80% is coming from North America.
Yeah.
What are the rest of the sales like?
So we have hit a couple $1 million in revenue on Shasan alone of all our board games, and we have just gotten started. We started running ads recently, so we believe it's going to snowball at this point, and we have 8 games in the pipeline for India and the world at large.
Okay. And when are they coming up? Very quickly.
The next one's in Jan, then every 3 months following that.
And these add-ons, how do I get add-ons to this game? That's what I'm trying to understand. Okay, look, you explain the policy-making
Sure.
process. You're making policy-making fun again.
Yeah.
How do I get add-ons and make this cooler? Like, how is this a living game, which is a SaaS model like you spoke about?
So you ship, when you buy the game, we ship with one campaign. You can go online, buy as many campaigns as you like. And then follow that up with more game modes, with Shasan Azadi, with a bunch of other things.
Okay. And what is the one cheat code that I can really beat you at this game with?
Trust no one.
Trust no one. Is that from your creative times that learning's
No,
come,
no,
or from or your understanding of politics?
No creative endeavor works without absolute trust in your team members. But this comes from my understanding that if you're playing a zero-sum game, a game where only one person wins, you have to keep your interest at heart.
You have to keep your interest at heart. Are you giving everyone in the audience a free box of Shasan? Is that what the plan is?
I wish I could. Maybe next time.
Okay, guys, he's going to be here as well. A huge round of applause for this absolute rock star, Zen Mammon. And I will now hand it over to... Can we leave the game on stage?
Yeah,
Preeti, can we leave the game on stage?
it might be a little awkward for next panel.
Maybe for the next panel. Ladies and gentlemen, Zen Mammon.
Thank you.